What's Tea Petty Bunch? I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Girl. Can we gossip? Yes, with the petty one. All right, you guys, you already know what I need you to do. I need you guys to like this video. Liking is a free way to support my channel. It's also a free way to get your girl out into these YouTube algorithm streets, okay? So people who don't know that I'm the petty one that they need in their life with this commentary so that they will see me and that they will become part of the petty bunch. Because I mean, what else is there to do? Because we stay petty over here in the petty palace. Yes. So I just want to talk to you guys real quick about a new series of videos that I'm currently working on. Now, I don't think I've ever shared this, but I am a girlfriend's stan. My girlfriends. Yes, I love girlfriends. And I will never forget when girlfriends first debuted in the early 2000s. I was probably in my, no, I was in my junior year of college. And I just have to tell you, going to a predominantly white university where we had to fight to get BET and MTV included in a cable package. Now, when I tell y'all that shit for me, that was crazy. That was some crazy shit right there. I will never forget having to sign a petition with other classmates that was like, "Yo, can we get some BET? Can we get some MTV? Can we get some VH1 in these streets?" Because for us, representation matters. Okay, so we already had the Sex in the City with the with the white women doing their thing, walking through the New York streets, and it was at the time it was giving. Although to my chagrin, Carrie was toxic AF. Had thousands of dollars worth of shoes, but wouldn't pay her rent to own her apartment. Like, what the I digress. Anyway, back to girlfriends. So seeing a show like Girlfriends where women looked like me and going through challenges and struggles that I could identify with, I was all for. So watching Girlfriends in my 20s was, first of all, we were just excited because we have four black women who looked like us, living life in LA. We had Joan Carol Clayton, who was the attorney, fashionista. Then we had Tony Childs, the bougie Barbie, realtist. Then we had Maya, Joan's assistant turned girlfriend, then turned authoress. And then we had Lynn, the free spirited mooch. So Girlfriends gave us four different women. And, looking at these women, it was like you had an individual personality that you could identify with. Maybe there was something about Joan that you could identify with, but there was also something about Lynn that you could identify with. There's also something about Maya and Tony. Each of these characters had just these basic personality traits that we could just absorb. And it was like we ate it up because it just, again, representation matters. I can't even stress that enough. So seeing these black women struggle through like just real life situations, dating, just learning how to be girlfriends, just battling the different men that they came across, sometimes battling each other in love, although it was shady, was just good to see. So it's funny watching Girlfriends in my 20s. And let's fast forward 20 plus years later. Here I am in my 40s watching Girlfriends. And I'm like, wow, the depiction of these women has totally changed my views on how I saw them then versus how I see them now. So that's what these videos I'm getting ready to put together are going to be about. I want to do just a deep dive into Joan, into Tony, into Maya, into Lynn, because, people have their, views and opinions of how they see Joan and how they see Tony and how they view Maya and how they view Lynn. And so it's like, I just feel like I want to put my spin on things to just go back in time about how I was feeling about Joan when I was in my 20s and how I feel about Joan now that I'm in my 40s. So I'm excited to bring this a dive to you all. And so now I want to start with our good girlfriend, Joan Carol Clayton. So let that beautiful bean footage roll.
Joan Carol Clayton, played by the beautiful, ever so talented Tracy Ellis Ross, was a 28-year-old attorney working at Sweetelson, McDonald, and Lee as a junior partner when we were introduced to her on Girlfriends. She's neurotic. She's also a delusional, hopeless romantic, which means whenever she would come across a man, she would automatically think that he is her soulmate. And so we see Joan entangled with men that she had no business being entangled with. And we sort of see why Joan's relationships always fall by the wayside when you look at the relationship of her parents. So her parents were divorced. Her mom was on her third marriage, and her father was pretty much the type of person who did not communicate. He would walk away from controversy, never wanted to be confronted. This is the third. So now you have a Joan who wants to be in love, but does not know how to be in love. And then she aligns herself with the wrong men. For instance, when she met Sean Ellis. In Joan's mind, Sean Ellis was the perfect man because not only was he good looking, but he was an architect and he seemingly had it going on. But Joan did not look at the red flags that were being thrown her way. Now, you guys remember the episode where Joan, Tony, Lynn, and William, Maya was there too, but they were sitting in Davis's restaurant at 8:47, and they were all making a list of what it was they were searching for in a partner. Joan, going off the dome, came up with all these adjectives that she felt would describe her Prince Charming. So they go to the art gallery and she automatically sees Sean. Of course, he's good looking. Just a good looking, fine ass dude. So she sees him and she automatically thinks that he checks off a lot of boxes on her list when he was basically curving her the whole time. Sean, if you guys notice, was not interested in Joan at all. He was there for one purpose only, and it was to observe his friend's art. But Joan followed him around the exhibit like a lost puppy dog. She was thirsty. She was giving us pick Misha vibes. And you guys remember when the girlfriends said they were ready to go, Joan looked at Sean and said, "I'm leaving now." And so he just looked at her. If he was truly interested, he would have asked for her number, but Joan had to control the situation and she orchestrated the whole number exchanging thing. Of course, Joan and Sean end up having a relationship. She soon discovers that this man was community peen. Sean was a recovering sex addict and had 300 partners. Now, Joan, baby girl, I know you wanted a man and all, but for you to lower your standards and to be with someone who had slept with 300 people, you're giving Pick Misha vibes. Joan and Sean's relationship ended when he accepted a 6-month contract in New York, which meant that they would have to do long distance. At first, they tried it out And then they figured that wasn't working. Joan took a red eye and she went to go visit Sean. And Sean basically gave Joan an ultimatum. You can do law here, live here with me. And Joan is like, I can't leave my girlfriends and my career, this, the third. So they ended up just parting ways. And of course, Joan ended up meeting Chris Dennison, who was the younger guy that worked in the mailroom. He also played on the softball team with the law firm. So Joan hooks up with Chris. And of course, Chris is very much immature. I'm going to say he was probably 5 or 6 years younger than Joan. You guys remember they ended up at the club where Chris was a DJ at. She took X and she ended up in the hospital. So that shows, again, Joan, you are picking the wrong guys because you're looking at every man that you meet as being your potential soulmate. Joan was so in love with the thought of being married, having children, having a nice home and a white picket fence that it definitely clouded her judgment. You guys remember Ellis the actor that Maya called a sellout. And you guys also remember Joan had other boyfriends. You guys remember Marcus with the hips. So Jones, let's not forget Brock. Remember, Brock was Ellis's agent. She and Brock met. It was kind of an enchanted meeting. It was almost like a love at first. I'm going to say a lust at first sight, not love at first sight. So, of course, Joan feels that Brock is her soulmate. They meet eyes. The moment they hold hands, they know that they are destined to be together. And of course, she ends up breaking up with Ellis, who I felt like Ellis, there was no chemistry. I'm not sure what the writers thought when they casted the actor that played Ellis, but there was no chemistry between the two of them. There was more chemistry between a pencil and an eraser than there was between Joan and Ellis's characters. So bringing Brock in to disrupt their chaotic, tumultuous relationship was definitely a good thing. But then to have Joan and Brock jump headfirst into a relationship with Joan once again never vetting this man to see if he in fact had the same morals, values, and goals that she had. Now, mind you, the trip that they took to Vegas, Joan automatically assumed that Brock was going to propose to her. And you guys remember they were driving to Vegas and Joan thought that Brock was going to propose, and Brock was like, no, sometimes Vegas, baby, just meant, baby, we're going to Vegas to get to know each other more. So, of course, Joan feels embarrassed. And you guys remember how they were driving on the road and then he would turn around and drive back to LA and then they would decide to go back to Vegas. And so they ended up getting engaged. But as they were talking and Joan is picturing their life together and she mentions kids and Brock is like, hey, I don't see kids in my future. Once again, Joan is disappointed. Once again, Joan, the pick Misha vibes were real and you did yourself a disservice. Now, who I really felt that Joan should have ended up with, I loved Joan and Davis together. Davis was a good looking restaurateur. He and Joan were really good friends. They had amazing chemistry. Whenever Davis flirted with Joan, Joan was always coming back with quick whips, and they just matched each other's fly, in my opinion. And I really hate that the writers did not give this storyline between Davis and Joan a chance to develop into what might have been. I really feel like Davis was Joan's soulmate. No shade to Aaron, but I just feel like the writers brought Aaron in because they said, "Hey, okay, we know we had to change Joan's character because Joan was the it girl and she was becoming too confident, she was becoming unlikable. Her girlfriends didn't have time for her because her head was getting too big. Now we've got to take Joan down a couple pegs. And so we need to pair her up with somebody that is just average and boring. And anyone knowing Joan Carol Clayton, those are not words that you would use to describe her. So again, I just feel like the writers missed out on something big by putting her with Aaron. So, yeah, I just wasn't a fan. And again, the chemistry, it just seemed very much forced. Now, as far as the friendship dynamic, I really feel like Joan was one of the pieces of glue that held her girlfriends together. Her home was always the safe space for the ladies to sit and kiki and to cry and to just talk shit and just have a good ass time with whatever struggles they were going through. I feel like Joan was definitely the mama of the group. She never had an opportunity to just let her freak flag fly. I just feel like Joan could not be her authentic self with her girlfriends. And I really feel like they never allowed Joan to be her true self because they always, they were always ragging on her. They were always making fun of her, especially when it came to her 3-month rule. But I really feel like Joan, in my opinion, when I look at things through my 40-plus-year-old lenses, I feel like Joan most definitely was a better friend to her girlfriends than they were to her. She was always there for them. They were always eating her food, and I don't know. In my opinion, sometimes they just did my girl Joan wrong. They just always felt that she would be there to listen to them, but when it came time for her to talk about, when it came time for Joan to glow up, Joan really didn't get the opportunity to glow up because her girlfriends automatically just became jealous of her and they felt that she was becoming too big. So what? She became the it girl for the moment. We watched Tony be the it girl all the time. We watched Maya go through situations and Joan be there. We also watched Lynn, the transformer, transform through many different phases throughout the duration of the show. I just feel like the ladies were just a little bit tough on Joan at times, and they did not allow her the room to just be her quirky and neurotic self. It was like they were always giving her, just ragging on her for just being herself. And you guys remember when Joan turned 30 and she found a new nail polish that she wanted, the Caltrans orange, and they went to the nudist beach, and how the ladies laughed because she couldn't really get comfortable with being nude. So I don't know. I just feel like my girl Joan, they could have treated her a little better. And I feel like maybe that's why Joan was always so tightly wound, because it was like, damn, I can't be myself. So you guys have already boxed me into being this neurotic friend that this is the part that I have to play. I truly cannot be my authentic self. And I really felt like Joan was becoming her authentic self when Tony, of course, ended up leaving the show and they brought Monica in. I really felt like Joan was her authentic self with Monica. You guys remember how she and Monica had to have that come to Jesus moment where they were, dissing each other back and forth, but it was after the ladies had told Monica that Joan was using her as a replacement for Tony. And I really felt like Joan was, at that time, was able to let her hair down and be her true, authentic self. So I don't know. You guys tell me, what do you guys think about Joan Carol Clayton? Do you feel that she hopped into these relationships too seriously, too quickly, because she was just in love with the idea of being in love rather than vetting her partners? Do you guys feel that she was giving Pick Misha vibes when she would come across a man automatically, fitting him for the tux, wedding already planned in her mind? How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys I feel like Joan was a good girlfriend. She was most definitely a good girlfriend to Maya when Maya was cheating on Darnell with Stan, and she went out and purchased that $3,000 computer so she could cover Maya's ass. She was also a good friend to Lynn, who she allowed to live with her for 8 years rent free. She was also a bomb ass friend to Tony, always there for Tony. whenever Tony needed her, was always a listening ear. She was always available for her. And then it's like you have to think about who was really there for Joan. I'm gonna say at times it was more than likely it was William. Joan, I feel like, could also be her authentic self around William, because he loved Joan for who she was and not what she had to offer. So you guys go ahead, comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And on that note, Petty Bunch, the Petty One is out. See you guys in the next one.